Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. We have been following what is happening in the United States vis-a-vis India as well as Israel to dissect what is the relationship between India and United States from various perspectives. We have with us Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar and General Ravi Shankar. Namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel, sir. As always, a pleasure to have you.
Namaskar and thanks a lot, Sree Iyer ji, for calling me once again on the channel
And,
after a
and
long time.
yes, indeed, sir. My bad. It's been
No, it's not
election
your bad.
season.
It's just that things have happened that way, and it's a pleasure
Yes.
always to be with on P Gurus. And
And viewers, this video is being beamed on both Gunner Shot as well as on P Guru. So wherever you are watching, please like this video because General Ravi Shankar has a slide deck to share with us, and we are going to take a look at the nuts and bolts of the situation. I mean, if US can walk away from its most trusted partner, Israel, what of India? So all these things will be going through your mind. So General Ravi Shankar is going to lay it down bare for us what he feels and how he feels the India-US relationship should be proceeding. Over to you, sir.
thanks a lot, Sree Iyer ji. Uh, Let me put a few issues together first. We are talking of two big nations. Uh, our ex-foreign secretary and the national security advisor, Mr. Shiv Shankar Menon, he calls them super states. He calls India, China, USA as super states. And he's written an article about this in Foreign Affairs. We're talking about the two biggest democracies. And democracies have friction because what is democracy? All differing opinions. So, with such great democracies, there will be friction. So, let's not think that everything will be nice and smooth. The relationship historically between a democracy and autocracy or a democracy and a dictatorship has always been smooth, even in the US context. You're talking of a global power, established global power, and a rising power, and a power which is getting back to its roots. So the relationship between India and USA has to be seen in a larger context. You're looking at the USA, which has one of the largest and the wealthiest Indian diaspora, where the Indian diaspora counts. Increasingly, they count in the American political system. The reverse is not true, right? So, and after all, even there, within the Indian diaspora, there's difference of opinion. In fact, I would not only say it's bipolar, it's tripolar or multipolar there also, right? Then there is an issue of mutual dependence between India and USA. And there's a huge mutual dependence. And we'll come to that. That's very important. Whether it's in the Indo Pacific or everything. Quad, very important. And then, of course, I'll look at the strategic things. We'll come to the tactical issues later. Sometime back, Ashley Tellis had written an article about a bad bet on India in foreign affairs. And, he felt that America was taking a bad bet on India and India won't deliver. I thought that was a poor way of looking at it for a person of Ashley Tellis' caliber. Um, Very poor. Because the whole story was American sided. There were not two sides to the whole story. And in the actual state of relations between America and India, at the government level, it's balanced. And that's my view, and that's my experience. The think tanks, the Twitterati, the social media artists rake up issues, but it's not so. So, what I'll do is I'll go through a set of slides which I've made, and then we'll talk about it. And then, of course, we can discuss various aspects of this relationship. And, uh, and then, of course, we can take questions from everyone. So, we'll
Yes, sir.
have the first slide. Yeah, we need to first understand, step back from whatever is happening now, xenophobia, Panun, Niger, all those rascals. Take a step back. Go back to the previous century. We were strategic adversaries. right? We were on the opposite sides of the fence. We are talking of the last century, sanctions due to missile firing, nuclear testing. They were siding with Pakistan, the whole lot. And somewhere around 2000, things changed. And now we are a strategic partner. We are not an ally. We are not an ally like, say, uh, the alliance between Australia and USA or Japan, or for that matter, even Philippines or the NATO alliance. We're not an ally. We're a strategic partner. There's a difference between a strategic partnership and an alliance. Now, the issue here again in this strategic partnership is that in many cases, in many instances, especially in the military sphere, we've done exercises, we've done a lot of actions, a lot of exchanges, a lot of things which are more than an ally. Why? Because we are simply two of the biggest armies, the three biggest armies in the world, or the four biggest armies in the world, along with Russia, right? And we've been interoperable despite our differences. And I'll come to that also. So, are you a strategic partner or are you a ally? You're, I think, something different now. We started with a strategic partnership, not an ally, but we are something more in certain aspects and something less in certain aspects. So this relationship is actually special. Okay, that's something which we have to understand and we can't lose sight of it. Okay, now we have a, this partnerships really started when President Obama and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh were there. Different administrations, different era. At that time, it was said that this will be a partnership of the century. And it has endured even now. We've gone through, you know, two tenures of the Congress backed government and two tenures of the BJP backed government. So that's 20 years, right? And we've gone through 4, 5 presidents: Obama, Trump, Biden, Clinton, whole lot, Bush, four, really. So if you look at it, at that time, it was called the partnership of the century. There's no change. Yeah, a lot of issues are there. Let's look at it the US point of view. Now, USA wants to continue to dominate the world. There's no doubt about it, right? But it needs India to do so. There is no doubt in USA's mind at any level that it cannot contain China without India. There's no way. Okay, right. India can handle China at its present format. That's my uh, preposition always. But if you want to rise as a global power, you need USA as your strategic partner. Let's not have any doubts. You can't have China as your strategic partner. It's almost your enemy. If I go back to what George Fernandez said, enemy number one. I can't forget it because I used this phrase of enemy number one in the first dissertation I did when I was doing high command in 2000. Okay. But then let's not look at it from a binary between India and China. India and USA. Look at what China says today. In fact, yesterday this article came out in South China Morning Post. He says US-India ties strained by Biden's gaffes, criticism, murder plot, but they need each other. Issues of xenophobia, all that. He says they'll get over it. India and US. China feels so. So why shouldn't we feel so? Okay. And he also says analysts in Washington will ensure nothing gets in the way of its efforts to counter China by partnering with New Delhi. We shouldn't have any doubts. Okay. This was about 2 months back. Here to stay. India US bound by shared interests won't be marred by recent incidents, analysts say. So this is a consistent position of China. They're worried. They're immensely worried about what's going on between India and USA. Okay, but then let's step back a little further. This cartoon is something which I use whenever I talk of these four powers. And guess where this comes from? South China Morning Post. South China Morning Post feels that India, USA, Russia, and China run the globe. And this was about last year. This is not recent. Okay. And I transferred it. I transferred it into a quadrilateral where India and USA are at the opposite ends with attraction, and China and Russia are at the opposite ends of this quadrilateral with mutual attraction. There's repulsion between India and China. There's repulsion between USA and Russia. You look at it. There's no doubt we can never forget that China and India equations will be strained for a long time. Right. India will remain a global strategic partner for both Russia and USA. But in this process of the past 1 year, 2 years, earlier India used to be called a swing state. Today you're a balancer. You're balancing the equation between Russia and USA in some manner. And you're the conduit between them. Tomorrow, if there's a peace deal to come out there, they'll definitely use you. And don't forget, it was only our Prime Minister Modi who went and said this is not the age of conflict. And he was the only one who spoke to both Zelensky and Putin on the same day and said, "Look, cool off." It didn't work. That's a different story. Right. And this is something which we can never forget because this is the reality. And if you are a big power, you might as well learn to live with hiccups. Right? Okay. What does the Global Times view this partnership? That's important. He says the US and Indian interest in strengthening the strategic partnership is to balance China. They're not right. They're not wrong. It's absolutely correct. They're worried. The US intend to rope in China in India to counter China and Russia as wishful thinking. They're trying to put a spoke in this whole story. India, as a regional power that upholds strategic autonomy, is unwilling to be a pawn of any major power and does not want its national interest to be held hostage. Part true, part wrong. We don't want to be a pawn. We don't want our national interest to be held hostage. We uphold our strategic autonomy, all right. But the intent of this fellow is to drive a wedge between USA and India. That's not right. He says no Asian security architecture or industrial chain can be constructed without China. He's threatened by this equation, by the India-US equation. He says the end result of balancing China will be loss of self-interest of the countries involved in the balance. So China is, let me be very clear, is completely rattled by the India-US relationship. Okay? Look at India. You are the key global investment destination. If you look at any index in China, the investment is down. In India, it's going up. Supply lines are shifting. I mean, it's very interesting, and this is the debate and the discussion in USA, in informed circles, that India has done anti-dumping orders more than any other country, more than even USA. They realize it. They quote our story. We banned TikTok and other apps. Now they're still going into a suing and all that nonsense which you people know in USA. And we've done investment ban on them. USA is not done. And they quote India. They say, look, if India can do it, why can't we do it? And India is still trading with China, but they've kept them at arm's length. Right? Okay. Now let's look at certain military aspects. The earlier thinking in USA was that, India needs USA to keep China at bay and, to protect them. That's changed. And they know it. We made the Zojila tunnel. We made the Atal tunnel. There's one road, important road which we have made this is in eastern Ladakh, right? We've opened the Sela tunnel. We've rebalanced forces to the north. We don't need anyone's help to, hold China, and they know it. USA knows it, China knows it. And that's why they were rattled. I've done a video called Five Things Which Rattled China. Part of that was this. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to have a rerun of that. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, I'm releasing that again. Then you look at the anti-piracy operations. Who's doing the controlling of that part of Indo-Pacific? Indo-Pacific has two constituents, Indo and Pacific. Right? We are doing the anti-piracy operations and they're handling Houthis. It's a very clear demarcation. Is China doing anything here? Is Pakistan doing anything here? They're sitting in Djibouti and in Gwadar and sitting tight. Is Russia doing anything here? No. It's India. And the story is that the Indian naval forces and the US naval forces are in complete coordination with each other and carrying on. After all, we have done this Malabar exercise for 5-6 years. So there is a spin these days in, see, one of the problems with USA is they have a hangover of colonial times or the last century. Many people in the think tanks in USA don't realize that India has changed. There's a changed paradigm in India. Now you got Minicoy, you put a naval base there. Below that is Maldives, and below that is Diego Garcia. Now, if India and USA don't cooperate with each other in that area, tomorrow Maldives will be taken over by China, and all the routes the Indian Ocean routes will be, not available to you. You've done Milan exercise. It's a major naval exercise which we did. US ships were also there, and just 2 months back. Very important on the right bottom. I mean, it doesn't look the same. I mean, it's not related to any geographic location. But in the past 1 year, we've reduced Russian arms import. And today, USA is your biggest arms trading partner. So you can't wish away all those things. Right? Okay. Let's step back a little more, go zoom out. The left is, the West Asia and Israel, Rafah, all that nonsense is going on. But there is something else happening in the South China Sea. What's happening in the South China Sea? Almost every second day, there's a run-in between Philippines and China. Any day, bullets can fly there. If bullets fly there, be rest assured there's going to be something happening there. Who is this free power who will control Indian Ocean then? India. I've already told you. Where we're controlling the Indo part of it with the USA. Naturally, the rest of the Quad will go there and do whatever it has to do. So there is a very clear strategic alignment between India and USA. Right? Of course, there will be difference of opinion. There will be difference of thought. There will be the think tanks in USA are conditioned to a particular way of thinking. Many times their writing is to put pressure on India. That's part of the game. Okay, there are transactional issues. I agree with you completely. The Spannun Nijar case is ongoing. But how much traction will it get? So what if a person is named? So many Americans have been named for so many things. What happened to them? Nothing happened. Yeah, it's slowly coming out from Canada that a lot of these problems are gangland killings there. And it's Canada which is actually the villain in the whole piece. Because they've given shelter to all rogues who got from here. And this even the USA is, but that's okay. It's their choice. Right? Of course, there are a lot of chaps who talk of India being an illiberal democracy, increasing autocracy. I mean, Is there a logic? The elections are going on. Whoever the people of India want to choose will choose. Whether Modi comes or Karunanidhi comes from his grave, however they bothered. It is my choice, right? They don't have an opinion on that. They can give their opinion, but does it matter? They talk of xenophobia. What about them? It's the same. But are these the things which define the relationship or something bigger? And we have to understand that the US has a behavioral history of being a bully wherever it wants to be the big partner. So be it, let him be. How does it matter us? Right? And their behavioral history is they behave very well with autocracies. They find it very convenient. Probably it's a new experience for USA also to deal with the democracy. Right? They've never dealt with democracies on an equal footing. Right? And then, of course, we have to understand a lot of these things will get done for election purposes. After all, there are elections in India. US and India is not a big election issue. But India and US will become an election issue between Biden and Trump as days go by. Okay. And of course, for whatever reason, they've sent a Maverick as a US ambassador in India and he keeps shooting his mouth off. Right, without knowing it, we don't know what he's talking. I don't know whether he knows what he's talking, but I thought of all the I've been tracking and following many ambassadors down the line, going back in time. Patrick Daniel Moynihan and Frank Wisner and all those people. In that lineup, Eric Garcetti comes a pale shadow, and he's adding to the problems. So there are certain issues of this nature which will mar cases, and this might take. I think we need to be a little more, calm about it and go ahead with the major issue because we can't lose the major sight of the major issue. छोटा बहुत तू मैं for an entertainment चलता रहेगा. I have no problem with it. Yeah. Yeah. You have any viewpoints, anything you want me to clarify? I'm prepared to clarify.
One is that
I,
Garcetti was a two-term mayor of Los Angeles City, and then this is his next appointment. If you notice, it took a long time before India accepted his credentials. There
yeah.
was a hesitation. I mean, let's just accept it. It took a while before India accepted his credentials. So there is clearly Garcetti also probably wanted to wait it out because when you are a two-term mayor and then you are termed out, the next option is to run for governor. Maybe he didn't see the road clear through the governorship of California. He wanted something else, and he's one of the cogs in the progressive wheel. So that has to
That's
be
okay.
this is the background. I'm sure
Yeah.
Garcetti one-on-one will be a charming guy, and but we see him through what he's uttering. It's not what he is. So we have to just take a look at that. One thing that I wanted to ask you, General Ravishankar. You said that India needs to be beyond a strategic partner with the United States, and that India is now beginning to import more from US than from Russia. Now, so basically, India is moving towards a relationship similar to US and Israel. Could I say, can we draw those parallels?
No.
And why not?
There's no parallel because the equation with Israel is of an alliance, and Israel is dependent on USA. We're not dependent on USA the way Israel is. We need certain help from USA. There's no doubt about it. Equally, USA needs help from us. That's why I got that anti-piracy thing in. All right. The equations with Israel are very different. After all, for Israel, USA has been its lifeline. Not now, historically. USA is not our lifeline. It's never been our lifeline. Right?
Let me ask you
So
a slightly different question.
let me elucidate. And we are not dependent completely on its imports. We are importing certain high tech stuff. After all, our Atmanirbharta plan is kicking in. It will take time. See, none of these things will happen overnight. We are getting high tech stuff from there. It's good because their American items in our inventory uh, lead to interoperability. It's got other payoffs also. But we are doing a lot of Atmanirbharta and our exports, defense exports have started kicking off. So we shouldn't be dogmatic of the fact that we have switched from Russia to USA. No, that's not happened, right? Uh, we still continue to depend on Russia because some of the equipment which we have from Russia, you can't just throw it away. You can't throw a tank away in 10 years, 5, 10 years. It'll take 30, 40, 50 years. We'll have to go through upgradation and all that. So there's a lot more in this equation between India, Russia, India, USA. Whereas Israel, USA is completely different. We've never been dependent on USA for ammunition. If tomorrow we need ammunition, we have to depend on ourselves. In fact, we have probably have to go back to Russia because we have Russian equipment and they can't give us, USA can't give us that ammunition. So the whole thing is a little more nuanced than we think like that. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Yesterday, Biden came out clearly and said that if Israel does a land invasion into Rafah, then we are going to hold back some ammunition. The interesting thing is, one of the ammunition is actually designed in Israel but manufactured in USA. In other words, Israel has the design rights to it. Now, Israel might say that, hey, I got to have this thing. I cannot be, handcuffed the way this is. Let's say Israel seeks out India and says, okay, I have the design. Can you manufacture it for us? What do you think India will say?
Well, I don't think we'll be in the same kind of a situation because we don't have that situation. That's the first thing. Is the Israel situation is completely different from the Indian situation. And whatever we do with China, I think India and USA are on one page. Whatever we do with Pakistan, we are also on one page these days. Barring that, any interests in Indonesian, we've been handling it together. If you remember, 3 months back, 4 months back, during the Bangladesh elections, we had a certain amount of difference of opinion before the elections and all that. And then soon all that disappeared. So at some stage, the equations got ironed out, and things were okay. So the same thing, I don't see that kind of a parallel ever happening. Even let me clarify the Israel thing about it. Israel has also probably realized where it has stepped the line, and it has pulled back a bit. So the whole thing will reset. It's a matter of 24 hours. Give it 24 hours, and you'll see everything will be reset.
Let me just take this thing a little further. Thanks for that clarification. I'm going to ask you a slightly different question.
No, you can ask me any question. Doesn't matter. The more difficult, the better. Both for everyone who. Yeah.
No, we believe in looking at things that perhaps others have not yet looked. So this is one of those things. I'm going to ask you a question on the similar lines. If you take any army that goes into a conflict zone where population is embedded with the soldiers, typically the casualty ratio, we call it, in some places they call it collateral damage, is 8:1 or 9:1, meaning 8 civilians will die for every soldier that dies when you have this embedded situation. Now, Israel says that in its current invasion of Gaza, that the ratio is 1:1, perhaps the lowest. Now, the US says, no, it is higher than that. This is US. How much of US's statement is because Biden is feeling nervous about Michigan, where there's a Muslim majority now, more or less, and a couple of other swing states where the Muslims are saying, American Muslims, of course, they're saying that unless you stop this we are not going to vote for you. They have already made their intentions clear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know how
That I agree.
they vote as a block. It's a problem for you.
No, that
So
is that's an internal issue which USA has to resolve on its own. But having said that, the civilian casualties in Gaza have been disproportionate. I mean, very right. Um, could Israel have done things differently? I think so. I've been saying this from day one. There were better alternatives or other better routes. But would they have done that? They wouldn't have because it was a national honor involved. They did a lot of things emotionally because whatever happened on October 7th uh, shook the nation, right? And how nations react, you and I can't sit here and pontificate on that because it's their people, their kith and kin, and whatever they're doing it with a plan. Does it infringe human rights? It does. But then this is war, right? Are Palestinians in pain? They are in pain. Are they to be blamed? They have to share the blame because a lot of problems have been because of them. If the Palestinians were not to blame, they should have given up on Hamas long back and said, Hamas, get out. But they have not done that even now. Even now, Hamas is fighting from within the Palestinians. So you look at it, it's become a messy affair, very messy affair. Um, and I would say leave that to Israel and the Palestinians and USA to sort it out, whatever happens within USA. Whether USA chooses Biden or Trump, it doesn't matter me. Whether Muslims vote together or not, it's a matter which USA has to think of. I would rather like to think of what we have to do. Like I don't like USA, interfering in our affairs. I wouldn't like to interfere in their affairs. I wouldn't even like to comment on their affairs. In that too, in a naughty problem like this. And I think somewhere USA has gone wrong in the way they've handled things, and that is why today all their campuses are under siege, and it's for them to reflect. I'm not pontificating on that because this kind of a moment I've seen only after Vietnam War. I was a young boy, and we used to study about this. Those days there was no TV, nothing, but we heard about all this. We heard about Woodstock. Woodstock was a crazy movie which I saw when I was a teenager, late teenager. And what was Woodstock all about? Woodstock and Joan Baez and Santana and all the whole story was anti-Vietnam. That kind of a movement, and it has been repeated only now. In between all the wars which America has fought, it has not fought. So, America has to do a lot of introspection. There's a feeling within, whether you call it left, right, center, Muslim, woke, or, right, or whatever it is. There's a problem which America has to face. And that problem is within. And someone there in America has to sort it out. Would they like to do it the ham handed way? That's their choice. Would they like to do it politically? It's their choice. Can they do it? I don't know. Will Biden get re-elected? I don't know. I mean, I will be very frank with you. Whether Biden gets re-elected or Trump gets re-elected, the position of India for US won't change. It has not changed across two Democratic governments earlier and two Republican governments earlier. Why would it change it now? So that's the way I look at it. Maybe I'm looking like a cat on the wall, but I get an overview from the wall.
thank you so much, General Ravi Shankar. There are a lot of questions from our viewers.
Yeah, we'll take all questions, no problems.